Hey, I want to start off by saying it's really great to be here with you guys. I was a student not too long ago, so I want to start off my presentation by going like straight into some key things. My name is Vincent. I'm a software engineer. One of the biggest questions I had when they had these little info sessions is, "What are you making?" So currently at American Express, I range between 105 and 125 in salary. I'm gonna drop my LinkedIn, and if any of you guys ping me on LinkedIn, add me as a connect. Don't just follow me. I'd like to stay in touch. I'm happy to give you guys the exact amount if you're interested or whatever. But I guess I just share that with you just for info, and that includes a 8% bonus, which I came in about April of last year. So after taxes, it was like around 4,000 when I got it this year, and every 2 weeks it averages about $3,000 after taxes. My wife and I, we currently live in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, in a two-bedroom apartment. I currently use the second room as my little office, and I work hybrid from home. So that means I go into work about 3 days a week, and then I work from home 2 days. It's flexible. So last week I was in California for a week and worked 100% remote, and then some other weeks I work, 4 or 5 days in the office when they need me to. Yeah, I just share that to you because I know as a student I was like one of the first questions I wanted to ask and wanted to get to it. But I'm going to be ending my presentation with how I broke into tech and how I negotiated my offer, but wanted to rewind a little bit and just start to introduce myself a little bit more. My mom and dad immigrated here from Trinidad and Tobago back in the 80s. I was born in Miami, raised in California, and in high school, I started to take computer science classes. I had a student guidance counselor that was assigned to us, like students with IEPs, because I had dyslexia, tell me like, hey Daniel, you may want to take on a major career field that's less math intensive. And I took his advice and started to try to major in psychology and sociology. Then at one time I wanted to be a lawyer. So I spent like the first few years doing all these other fields because someone had told me you shouldn't do this because you wouldn't be a good fit. Eventually, I found myself doing freelance videography, and I had moved to New York to start doing the freelance videography. And doing freelance videography, I was doing it going from job to job, and it was constantly a struggle till eventually I wasn't making any income. And I remember one day things had gotten like so bad, I had actually made this sign, hungry $1 for pizza. I went to Manhattan and was literally just holding this sign, just trying to get a dollar. I was in New York City, the business was failing. And I had like an epiphany that I needed to turn stuff around. And I wrote this out in 2017. You'll see like here, like complete these goals by 2023. But I wrote this like 5 years ago. So this is my 5 year plan. I wrote on this same sign that I was holding the $1 for a slice. And one of my goals was to get a bachelor's degree, clear up my credit card debt, marry the woman of my dreams. I was able to do those three goals. I'm currently still working on saving $100,000, and I have a fitness goal here that I'm still working towards to complete. But um, one thing I didn't think about at the time is that your 401k kind of counts towards your savings and whatnot. But I guess I say these things to share that it's important to put out goals and have goals for yourself, but also that I didn't start the statement with how much I was making as like a flex, but to kind of tell you guys like that this whole computer science thing has been a long process. So from doing freelance videography, I had started to get into augmented reality from playing Pokemon Go back when it came out in 2016. And I was like, I think I'd like to do this. So as I started to dive deeper into creating augmented reality experiences, I realized that there was a heavy engineering component to it. And from there, I got back into college, originally at Medgar Evers, and started to learn and eventually transferred to Lehman College and graduated from there with my bachelor's degree in computer science and immersive technology. And after I graduated, I applied to around 200 jobs before I landed my job at American Express. But I wanted to talk to you guys about how I got the job because I actually got it through the NESB conference. And I know I was saving this more towards the end, but I guess it kind of fits in now. And there's a lot of great conferences. I could actually post some of the links. There's Chef Conference, there's the NESB conference, there's conferences for women out there. And it, of course, with these conferences, it costs money to go. But my first offer I got from this conference was from Wells Fargo, which was for I don't know. Okay, there's two conference links there for like 72,000. And in my mind, I was like I was working for Test and Trace, which is for the city of New York, just collecting data after I had graduated. So 70,000, I was like, man, that's awesome. I'll take that. And then Accenture had called me with an offer to be a consultant, and it was for 89, no, 85,000 salary with a $10,000 signing bonus. So even though I wasn't necessarily looking to be a consultant, the money from Wells Fargo wasn't really looking as appealing anymore. But when American Express called me, I was able to say, well, I have two other offers, and my highest offer right now is 95,000 total. So the negotiations with American Express started there because I had other offers. And what's interesting is I've met other people at Amex that graduated from the same college that came in at 90, which is totally cool. But a lot of people I know ask like, man, I've had them ping me on LinkedIn like, hey, Daniel, how are you negotiating? Because I'm a 4.0 student, I have this project. But what a lot of other companies care about in the end of the day is what other companies are willing to pay you, and because if you don't have any experience, you don't have any experience. Hopefully I kind of gave a good little intro there. Wanted to pause to give you guys the opportunity to ask any questions you guys may be having.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel, for opening up with your personal story and journey of career. I feel very inspired by, how did you actually get into where you are? I also wanted to ask, because we are a really small group, why don't we maybe have each one just have a brief intro to Daniel so that we can know which college you are in, what major you're studying now, or if you are alum, feel free to share with us what did you study and what's your career goal, and how Daniel's story and his expertise can help and support you here. And so I think I saw Frank, is that how he is also our CTP alum. Do you want to share with us first? Have a quick.
Hi, yeah, my name is Farouk. Yeah, I'm a recent graduate from CUNY Brooklyn College. I also attend the CUNY Tech Prep, cohort 7. Right now I'm looking for the full-time job as a software developer. Particularly, I'm interested in AWS, and for the front end, I'm using React. I had one internship during my school year, but didn't get the offer for the full time, and right now I'm looking for the job.
Thank you.
Am I commenting as they're saying it, or?
Feel free.
Okay. I just want to say, no, that's cool. I would say definitely continue to work on your personal projects. I was actually working in iOS, and I had an iOS app that I was demoing for people. So that was a big conversation started during interviews because I had a project to conversate about and talk through how I was working on it. So definitely that's great. And if you're able to implement APIs into that project, that's really cool as well.
Thank you, Daniel. Great insight.
Sure. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Oh, by the way, everyone, if you wanted to introduce yourself, and when you can also add a question that just ask Daniel here. So who would like to go next? Yes, Emily, please. Emily.
Hi, yeah, my name is Emily. I go to Baruch College. I'm a graduate student here studying information systems and data analytics. I am doing a kind of a career like pivot, or I guess it's really starting over. I worked in finance. I worked in wealth management for 4 years. So I do have some professional experience. And yeah, in the financial space. I wanted to do something more like technical, which is why I went back to school. And yeah, now I'm looking for positions as a data analyst, like data engineer, software engineering seems interesting as well. Last summer I did an internship with KPMG in tech assurance. They did offer me a full-time job. But I wasn't sure if it was a good role. Now I'm kind of kicking myself because the economy's turned and I would have taken it, but oh well. Yeah, I am looking for something that's technical and something I also have a background or a graduate degree in economics, so I have a really like strong like quantitative background and skills and stuff. So yeah, I guess my question would be if anyone knows of any, or if Daniel knows, if you know of any conferences, like you said, coming up, or what would you, or where would you recommend maybe looking for places where I could maybe network and meet people, that sort of thing.
Yeah, good question. I've been to, during the pandemic, I went to a lot of little random Zoom things like this, and they were cool. Yeah, SHEP is one that's coming up, like Hispanic, and then NSBE focuses on Black and Tech, but you don't have to be any specific denomination. I know like white people that have gone to NSBE and got a job, or Hispanic people that have been in NSBE, or Indian people. I know different things. People just get in where they fit in. If that's where your comfort zone is. I mean, and it's like a little bit of an investment between, okay, you need to make sure you have plane ticket, hotel, blase. But I would say the most important thing is making sure you're ready for the interviews, because last year NSBE was actually my second time. My first time was in 2021. And I went randomly and I got an interview with Charles Schwab, and I had not been practicing any leak code. So I wasn't expecting to get an interview. I'm like, I know I'm not interview ready, but conferences, I would say one advantage with conferences is that people go there with a quota for the amount of people they need to hire. Like recruiters are going there with that. Sometimes when people post things on jobs online, they already have hired somebody, but some applications need X amount of people to even apply. So, yeah, I don't know a lot of them per se, but if you find one or just keep your ear out for them, I think it's great, especially if you know they're recruiting new grads.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Or I think you're next. Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess I'm gonna introduce myself. My name is Diane. I'm a first generation college student from Honda College, and I graduated. So my career goal is kind of like getting into a software engineer. I interested in multiple areas such as embed, also or iOS, mobile development, or cybersecurity. And I have been applying job for many multiple times, and I lost track of the application I sent on. So my question is, in this talk situation, in this talk market, how do you find a new job as a new grad with no professional experience?
That's a good question. So when I graduated, a chunk of my time was working on my GitHub. Like your GitHub should have green dots every week. If you're looking for an internship, you're looking for a job, that's what they're gonna look at. Like, hey, you have free time, you must be coding, right? They're gonna want to see what you've been working at. My manager, I won't hear from him for a month, and I'll do a pull request, and he'll come and comment, "Good job," or so those pull requests matter. So I would say overall, it should be like if you're not working, and you're a student, it would be part-time. If you're graduated, I would treat looking for a job as a full-time thing, and maybe put a few hours a day towards working towards a project, a few hours a day between studying those leak code or interview problems, and then a few hours applying to jobs. Even me, even though I have a job, sometimes I'll see something and I'll shoot out my resume to something, and then I still get rejected. I'm like, I thought all you needed was 1 year experience for this thing. Like, and I'm like, okay, so I'm like thinking like, I thought, I'm thinking like, okay, I'm at a place where like, people will follow up with me now. So it's like, even now, people are looking for more. So I can only imagine I only have about 1 year of professional experience, but I'm like, okay, I mean, what if it makes me think about the person without the 1 year of experience. So I also had a website. I know they're not super popular now, but I'm working to get it updated with a few projects because it's good to have projects to talk about. I don't mean to go back and forth in conversation, but do you have a couple of projects, DEYE, that you've created?
I have a few projects on web development, like using React, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and also I did a mobile app on iOS using Swift UI. So I also receiving some take-home project from some company. I complete them and post on the GitHub for people to view. And that's it.
Yeah, in all transparency, it took me about 11 months after graduating to find my first job. And I wish I could tell you a better story. And I know I've applied at over 200 places. You know what? I know you see these people on LinkedIn, graduated with a job. That wasn't me. You know, it was a grind. It's hard to break into tech. I don't think enough people say it. It's not easy. This is one of the few jobs, a few degrees you get, and you can make 100 grand with just a 4-year degree, you know? So to break in is not an easy task. It's a full-time, it's gonna take pressure, you know, and it's applying that pressure over consistency and not giving up. And you know, I use Indeed. I know there's another one called Join, I believe, if you have like a student email, LinkedIn, and then even like when they ask for cover letters, I sometimes even take time and do the. I'm not the best writer. If you're engineers, like I feel like a lot of people that are engineers sometimes aren't the best writers. Sometimes the best writers aren't the best, like number people. Like sometimes a good application could take me a few hours. So I would just say continue pushing, but make sure your resume is looking good. Make sure you have readmes on your project, and yeah, continue to. Have you hit 200 applications yet?
I think I did.
Okay.
One thing I found out in this market is that in the late 2022, I have received some code challenge from some companies, but in this year, there's really any code challenge we get from the company. There's only take-home project, and even I finished, and there's a chance you didn't pass the later interview. Kind of hard.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say is I tracked the jobs I was applying for on Trello, and I would encourage you to make a Trello board so at least you could look back at the companies you did apply for and see as you're keeping yourself accountable that you're applying at like 10 jobs a week maybe or whatever you may have.
Yeah, I love it. We also use Trello a lot as a project management process to track job search. Can I also pop in a question, Daniel? You mentioned about getting this job in American Express. Could you share a little bit about your interview process? Perhaps give a
Yeah.
how did it look like for you?
So I had a behavioral interview where they were just checking on soft skills. There's like a saying at Amex that Amex doesn't hire any mean people, but like they tend to look for like culture fit and personality. To be transparent, I didn't even get that hard of a technical question, and I actually interviewed in Swift. Even though the application didn't say I can interview in Swift, like they're like, yeah, okay, you could interview in Swift, and it was a whiteboard question. And she had said something at the end, and I forgot. She's like, "Oh, what about this?" And I had like added that on, and she's like, "Okay, this looks good." And honestly, because I had messed up that last part, I didn't think they were gonna call me back. So I was like, "All right," but they did. So I was happy for the call back for sure.
So how many rounds in total? 3?
It was 2 technical, 1 behavioral. But I did one at the conference, and then another team had called me, and they asked me a bunch of questions, and I think they ended up shifting me. Also, it's funny, I never imagined being a back-end engineer doing Java, because in college I didn't like Java. But that was when they told me the offer and the different things. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna join, I'm gonna see how it goes. And then soon after joining, I was able to transition to a Python team. And I now work in conversational AI, which is fun. But I would never have got a chance to work in conversational AI if I didn't take that job that I didn't really look appealing at the time.
Love this insight as well, right? Just take every opportunity you get and get your foot in the door. And thank you for sharing that. how would you think, what kind of quality that help you stand out throughout the process? Just a follow-up.
Um, I would say README, because README files on your projects, because a lot of recruiters don't know code. They're just gonna like look at the project, okay. But if you have a README, my READMEs have pictures, some of them have GIF images, because I want it to be on like a level where somebody that doesn't know code could read it and understand it. And I know sometimes people could code up something amazing, but if the person that's gonna get your application to the technical people doesn't get what you did, it doesn't even matter, because they don't know how cool what you built was, you know? Yeah, so definitely I would probably say making sure that what you did is communicated and the importance of it and the problem that it's solving. Yeah.
Thank you. Can you share that link, the README? Is that a website?
Oh, so sorry. So on GitHub, when you on GitHub when you it's funny, it's something I learned from Eduardo. So on GitHub when you create a project, they give you a little box to write a description of the project you created. So writing a really good description, explaining what it does, and maybe explaining what it does to the point where the recruiter doesn't feel a need to have to try to download it and see what it does for themselves, definitely helps.
Who else would like to share a little bit about you, and then maybe questions for Daniel? Alpha?
Yes, hello. My name is Alpha Berry. I go to Hunter College. I'm a graduate student in economics, but I would like to double major in computer science. So I'm just learning more. I'm just trying to learn more about what computer science is. And I just have a question for Daniel. So do you believe that your chances are of getting a job right out of college are tied to the school you graduated from?
I think it's tied to how well you could interview and the projects you have. If I had to say, because the projects you have on your GitHub is what will attract somebody, and how well you could interview will get you in. For example, I work in conversational AI. Right next to me is the NLP team, the natural language processing team. And everyone on the team has master's degrees in like machine learning, but the tech lead has a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, but he's just really good at what he does. And he's able to demonstrate that in the projects he's created. So more so than the school you went to is the projects you have. Like even so much of like I have people that work under my org that have gone to NYU and different schools, and they're good schools, of course, but you know what? They end up in the same job as CUNY people. And no offense, it's like, hey, it's good. I'm glad, it's proud. No, I'm not throwing shade, but Hunter is a great school. I think it's just what you make of it and of yourself after that, you know? So hopefully I answered your question then.
Yes, thank you.
Also, as far as interviewing goes, there's a list of questions called the Blind 75 for anyone that's looking into software engineering. It's like around about, they say like an average of the questions most tech companies will ask you. So if you're going through practicing, some of you guys may have heard it, some of you guys may not have, but it's a good way to ramp up your technical interview score. There's another list called the Blind 50, and there's a few other lists, but this is the one I went through when I was preparing and looking for jobs.
I think I didn't have a chance to answer that.
Yes.
Yeah, to ask the question. Thank you with the lead code, the blind 75. So like I'm right now like looking for the job, and I'm mostly doing the projects and doing in AWS, as I said. And to be honest, I'm not practicing lead code anymore. I think one of the reason because I don't know, like if the recruiters will ask me lead code questions, or maybe something that I'm practicing in, that I'm applying in, let's say for the backend about the APIs or the databases, and how important to. So my question is, how is that important to practice the lead code, even if you are applying for the full stack backend, front end positions?
Your question is it lead code important even if you're applying for front end or full stack?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say yes, and I'm also gonna tell you that I hate leak code. I hate the questions. I hate practicing it. I tried my best to avoid it and apply to jobs that didn't require it. In college, you know, but I think what it really comes down to is companies know that it's kind of useless for the most part as well, but they want to know that if they want to know that it's not alone like your problem solving abilities, but also that you could take on a task that you don't like become good at it and still complete it. Because not everything that access to build as engineers are like, oh man, that's cool, but I get thrown a lot of stuff and it's like, okay, this is what got to be done. This is what I'm working on. So it's possible for you to find a job without it, but it's better for you to have a little bit of the fundamentals and have an interview and pass it than have said, man, I didn't practice even the basics just in case, and I do think tech needs a better interview system, but that's just the way the game is played, you know.
Yeah, sure. Thank you on that.
I wish I could give you a better
Yes.
answer, but it's just
I
that's
know,
just
like, yeah, people say like you have to do that,
yeah.
but feel like pointless. Yeah,
But what's great, what I will tell you guys is that once you actually get the job, it's a lot easier. Like right now I'm at work and I just ping them, hey, I'll work for 2 hours and I'm here, and it's like once you actually get into tech, it's not as hard as the work you're doing to get into tech. I would say, it's fun. They have like free food at Amex. They have events and happy hours, and a lot of companies are like that. They have really good work culture. So, um, I think one of the hardest parts is to break in, but once you break in, the actual job is actually I enjoy my job a lot, at least. I can't speak for everyone, but I do enjoy working at Amex. And one thing I didn't get to say in the beginning is all these views are my own. None of them are directly from Amex. I'm here on my own will, etc. That's for the recording.
Yeah,
Thank
can I have a question about Daniel?
you. Of course.
So I have been practicing leak codes like two problems a day, 5 days a week, but it's hard. It's very hard for me to get a technical interview for these days. So do you know a place except the two conference you just mentioned that truly hire entry level position that requires zero experience?
It's a challenging one. I would say don't be afraid to go to Shep or Nesby. I saw people of all colors, shapes, and sizes there, and it may feel a little awkward, but that's how I made it. I'm not saying that's the only way to make it in. And it sounds like you've done your work, you've been doing your leak codes, you have your projects. I feel like when your experience, like Nicola just said, when your experience meets the right opportunity, you're gonna have something. But I just feel like you need, and for you, it seems like you just need more opportunities. That's the best advice I can give. That's how I was able to make. Because I did so many applications on LinkedIn, Indeed, and then sometimes you don't hear back from these people. Sometimes you spend an hour, 2 hours working on the cover letter, etc. And sometimes you even get an interview, and then you think you did good, and you don't hear back. So I can tell you, after graduating, I went through graduation depression for a little bit, and like I didn't even know graduation depression was a thing. I had to Google, like, is it natural to be depressed after graduating? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing, So, like I said, it was very hard to break in. And it's not like that for everyone. I'm hoping that you guys have an easier time than that. But I will tell you that these problem solving questions don't go away. If you get lucky enough to get in with some easier questions or something that's great, But yeah. That's the best I have for that one.
So how many personal projects do you think that will suffice for
3.
the interview?
Well, the way I set up my resume, as I didn't have like I had like some internships, but the main way I set it up was my experiences. I had my experience. I had 3 projects, and at the top I had the GitHub link on my resume. I'll see if I can find it and maybe send it to you guys, or ping me on LinkedIn. I can send you a copy of it. I had a link to the GitHub resume, the link to the GitHub, and then 3 different things I did. So I think if you have like you set it up like it's like an actual job, you worked on this project from this time to that time, and this time to that time, and this time to that time. It's good, you know. So if you have three solid ones, at least one or two that use APIs, because they don't really teach us much about APIs in college, but every tech company needs you to move data to one place to the next, and it's using APIs. So um, it's going to be important that you have something and you're able to talk about APIs. Also, testing. Every interview I did at that conference asked about testing, and I feel like through undergrad, it's not something they talk about. But if you could talk about how you're testing your software, that's one question that would put you in a different level of other candidates.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that advice. And so Daniel, do you have any, like you talk about conference and networking and following your advice too, like I guess I'm curious to break in this tech field, getting the opportunity and you apply for 200 jobs, and how important it is that for you in terms of networking. Do you have some practical maybe advice for students?
Yeah. I have one friend that is a little older who's an engineer that helped me out with just applying. He's a senior technical engineer at Square now, and like he's doing really good. That's like one person I've kind of stayed close with. Throughout college, I've always needed like tutors. Like I've always struggled in like math and this and that. So one thing I did when I first got on the team is I hired a coach, and I knew I needed to get ramped up on different tech stacks. I use a website called Mentor Cruise, and on Mentor Cruise, you can go on there, you could find somebody, you could even like literally hire somebody like, hey, I want to make a portfolio or shape my portfolio to fit someone that's an appealing new grad. You could even hire a recruiter that, okay, they'll coach you through. I'm not promoting them. I'm just telling you, I've used them, and I've used them. I hired someone that was really good with the tech stack my team was using, and every week he would just give me homework. So yeah, that was a good one. Also, what else? I invested in I did code with Chris. I know you said you did iOS app stuff. That was kind of good because there was people on there I could chat with about improving. A lot of my networking has been virtual, but I would say it's important to maybe find a niche and not try to spread your net too wide. Like I know Emily, you were saying you're more into like you have a background in finance, but then you'd be interested in data engineering. Maybe finding a group specifically for data engineers, or maybe like if you identify as woman in data engineering, and like try to make it more specific because computer science as a whole is just such a wide field, you know. So yeah, that would be my advice, you know. I'd also say it's okay to, in my experience, I've had good experience with even networks that you pay to get in. I just recently joined one called uh Dev Color. And then like once you have 1 year of experience, it's for like African American males who are software engineers, but you have to have at least one year of experience. So I guess I would say try to find what makes you different and see if you could connect with other people that maybe share those same unique experiences as you know? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. You made me it remind me of like also having a board of like mentor, right? Like advisor in your job search, because they are also part of your network and help you introduce you to great opportunities or give you insights for your professional growth. So I have Sarah here in the chat. She shared that she's going to graduate this summer with a graphic degree. I don't know which college, but she said she's interested in UI UX design and maybe web design. She knows some coding languages, so looking forward to break into tech. She wanted to know, do you have any resources or conference for that specific UI UX?
I don't, but I would say that definitely work on getting, if you're into web design. Oh, cool. That your personal portfolio has some projects if you don't already. Because the mistake I did with my first conference is I went in willy-nilly, and like if I would have had some projects and if I would have had just a little more interviewing experience, I think I would have landed an internship at that conference. But so I would say while searching, um making sure that your website is good or your GitHub is good, because I know it's time consuming. Even me upgrading my website now and my GitHub with new projects with the stuff I've learned on my current job is time consuming. But I would just say make sure that you're sharp, because when you do get that interview and they can look through your portfolio, and then the conversation is about your portfolio and not something generic like, oh, what school you went to, and maybe you spent 30 minutes just being able to talk about the cool stuff you did. It's going to stick in the recruiter's mind, because not everyone is going to have like a portfolio of projects that are like displayable, but definitely a good question there. I've also used the website Meetup, and I've gone to different meetups in the past as well, and I've gone to ones for cryptocurrency. It's free. And sometimes there are paid events, but there are a lot of meetups happening in New York City. So that actually might be a good way to kind of connect and meet up. Not every single meetup I've gone to has been like the best, but there's one that for augmented reality I still go to, but I'm so passionate about augmented reality. And yeah, definitely. Yeah, my first mistake was not having a portfolio of things to show people. But yeah, definitely that's something cool to work on in the meantime.
Right? I have a maybe also career related question. When you are in the MX, if I can ask Daniel, how does the performance review process look like in your function or like company, right? And then how do you see your career progress within MX or in tech in general?
So they do reviews towards the end of the year. For my first year, I did well, and I got a 3% increase in my current salary. But the way they do it is the company gets a score between 1 being the best, like 1% of all the like 70,000 employees are part of the 1. And then like then the second majority is in the 2, and the greatest majority falls into like the 3. But if you get a 4 on your review, it's like you're borderline about to be fired. So so they give you a technical score from 1 to 4, then they give you a leadership score from 1 to 4. And depending on the score you get determines on how much more your bonus would be. As far as my career path, I never imagined doing like conversational AI, but I enjoy coding in Python. I recently chatted with like one database engineer, and it sounded kind of interesting. And one cool thing with Amex is they give you 1 week out of the year called a 5+, where you can learn something new or shadow another team. So I shadowed a database engineering team during my 5+, which was pretty cool. I wouldn't mind being like a technical manager in the future, because I enjoy like corresponding with people, and if I understand the tech stack well enough, it's funny, the higher you go in engineering, the less coding you do. So like the people that are like senior engineers, a lot of their job is like telling the junior engineers and regular engineers, but like the staff engineers, a lot of their job is just architecture, like planning out what stories other people should be doing. So I'm not 100% sure where I'm gonna go, but whatever I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just try to make sure I'm enjoying it as much as what I'm doing now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's inspiring, because I think having those kind of performance review help you to know where you are, but also giving that opportunity for you to try different things and continue to grow your technical career.
Oh, I will say one thing. There's one guy, I do have one mentor at Amex specifically, and he started off as an engineer 3, no, an intern, then came back as an engineer 3. Next year got promoted to an engineer 2. Next year got promoted to an engineer 1, and then the next year got promoted to a senior engineer. So one of my first few weeks there, I'm like, hey, me and you need to go grab coffee or chat. How did you move up so quick? And what he told me is that every year he tries to take on at least 3 pull requests that he knows will impact the rest of the org. So he knows, because at the end, when we do our end of the year review, we submit a pull request, or a most impactful pull request. So he's like, he starts to think about how to make the greatest impact for the team. And it's a business in the end of the day. So he thinks about also, how does this cut costs or save money too? So yeah, he do big pull requests, how to save money, and how to be most impactful. I'm still figuring that out, to be transparent, with 1 year of experience, but looking for those opportunities to do that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
For this as well, right? Like how to align your personal career goals with the organizational goals that can really help you to lift you
Yeah.
up. Okay, so we got the notification. We have 5 minutes left. So I really want to leave the time for our lovely students and alums here.
Yeah, so I do have a question. So what do you think about all the layoffs that are happening in tech right now? Do you think that there is any type of employment insurance in tech, knowing that they can just like fire you every day?
No, that's a good question. I think it's crazy. But I didn't know that until I started to research for myself that they were actually hiring more people than they were laying off. All the tech companies. One thing I am grateful for is that Amex during the pandemic and even now haven't done any mass layoffs. Which isn't to say that someone can't change their mind, but I do think about just trying to become more indispensable in a sense where a lot of times there's like 1 or 2 key people in the company that like know something, and a lot of people have to go to that one key person for knowledge or on how to do something. And a lot of the stuff I use in my day to day is stuff that was created before I got there. It's like internal tools. So like my manager, like a few years ago, laid the foundation for a lot of it. So even when we're going and redoing stuff, we have to go to him and he'll give us this or different pieces. So I guess to answer your question in short, I think it's crazy because a lot of these companies have the money and they don't need to lay anybody off, but they do, which I think is messed up. And I know a lot of them seems to be like newer grads or interns. So sometimes I'm like, man, I always wanted to work for a FANG company, but now I feel a little glad maybe I dodged the bullet, possibly. Yeah, but I think overall it's crazy. But I also want to tell you guys, like, again, I'm 1 year into this. I actually reached out to Nicola to help me update my resume just in case. And she's like, hey, I'm doing this little CUNY Tech thing. Can you come speak? I'm like, sure. She was my counselor when I was at CUNY Tech Prep. And she was originally the one who helped me get my original software engineering resume together. So yeah, I'm still kind of learning and connecting dots as we go too. Hope I don't come off as some software engineering whiz. That's not the way I mean to come off at all if I do come off like that.
Thank you for being so humble, Daniel, and for sharing that how CUNY Tech Prep or CUNY in general, right, Nicola's role in helping you, maybe the career coach and getting support from your career services, right? And getting the mentor to look at your resume. Any last questions?
I think I have a question. So yeah, I'm applying now, like at least I guess five companies a day, and I'm feeling that why I'm not getting interviews because of I don't have experience, right? But what I do have is my projects. So what would be your suggestions to get experience somewhere, or maybe I'm also doing the startup with my friend, we're doing like real estate startup. Is that a good way to to put on my resume that I'm doing startup? Maybe this is like kind of experience, or should I don't know, try to get experience somewhere else?
Your question is putting your startup a good way to get experience on your resume?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's like you're doing your engineering and working on it now?
Yes, I do it now, and I'm thinking maybe recruiters, if I'm gonna put it, maybe recruiters don't gonna like it because I'm working somewhere and I'm not gonna be fully committed to them. But on the other hand, it's showing that I'm getting experience and like I'm working on the code.
No, I think the biggest advice, I went to one of these things like you guys had, and I was talking to someone from Google, and I think one of the best pieces of advice I got was to work on my own personal project. So I had an iOS app that displayed a Christmas tree in virtual reality, augmented reality. And I showed that to everyone. I showed that to Amex, and then a lot of the conversation was about it because no one had showed them uh, augmented reality Christmas tree app. So if you have your own personal project that you're working on and it's unique and you could explain the in and outs of it, I mean, these recruiters talk to so many people a day. I think it's if you have something cool to talk about that you're working on personally, I think it's a really good thing, you know? Because and I was afraid to even work on it, but I'm like, man, everyone has Python and Java and C++, and I'm doing this Swift thing, but that's what led to them making me an offer. I didn't even know Java that well, but they're like, hey, if you could do this, you could definitely do this. I'm like, if you say so, you know. So yeah, I'll definitely throw it on there, you know. And if you could integrate an API, even better. I know I keep saying that, but APIs and integrating them really do matter in personal project because it's kind of the difference between an entry level project and a medium or hard project.
Okay. Thank you very
Yeah.
much for your time. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel.
No
Thank
problem.
you.